Greeting everyone. I'm Vincent. I will be your host for the sections. Today we were talking about one of the very common topic for the person who are performing for the system and application monitoring. Where is the application performance monitoring? And then for this section, we are talking in general what it is the APM is all about. And then we are using one of the products that we carry to illustrate how it will be able to help all those people that who are involved in the operation and then want to doing for the APM monitoring in detail. So let's start it. For the quick, before we continue further, we have a quick highlight for how we're running for the section. We will first to have a solution overview to give you a quick refresh for what is an APM is about, and then what is different with the normal like the server or the service monitoring, right? So, and then why it is the word nowadays it's been catching out in the market. It is not from this year, actually from a couple of years already. It's just that it is part of the thing. Nowadays most of people like to be in the unified part of the network or IT infrastructure monitoring, and then to provision more detail for the APM manner for those who are particularly involved in the application monitoring or system that we're talking about. Then of course that we will be, after you have a clear and understanding on how this APM architecture is working, we will be using one of the products to demonstrate how it being applied into real life scenario that it will be solving for all those monitoring requirements. And of course then after that we will be ending in open discussion, clarify anything you have in mind based on the time that is available. Then we will be closing the sections. Okay, let's start it. Okay. First, we have a quick revamp on, or so-called the refresh, you back into what is an APM about first. Let's starting in the basic, then we zoom into the more technical in nature. First, let's talk about system administrator, right? So, as we know, then in the IT infrastructures, system admin is the one that typically they need to dealing with the tasks like what? Like add, remove, configure the server and applications. And then they need to add and remove the user to access to the server and application. And then manage specific user have what kind of access privileges. And then they will be typically also involved in patch and upgrade the application. And then respond to the user complaint or trouble ticket. Let's say that have difficulty or feel slowed down on access to the server and the application in specific. And then after that, then they got to diagnose it and fix for the server and application problem, and then to making all those change control as necessary. And so as you can see, people with that kind of the task in hand, what they are really bothered and concerned about is how quickly they can getting their daily task done quickly and efficiency, and then for the fast problem resolution with no need to repeat the thing happen again and again, because that is time consuming. We are talking about not just for the single server and application. For this type of people, definitely they were dealing with a lot. So this is why that they always try to if let them have the time to choose. Of course they want to have a less time to firefighting and more time for high priority project and learn a new technology instead. And then at the same time to keep their end user, I mean for this case most likely will be internet user, business user, or maybe external user and so on, to be happy about a smooth access to the server and application, and then at the same time achieve the pre-agreed service level agreement, right? This is what this type of people is really do and what they concerned about. And we're moving into IT director again. This type of people, what they really do is to ensure the application are performing to meet the organization needs, right? So that also at the same time, system admin usually will reporting to them, and then they will assign the project and task to the team. At the same time, they are one that enforce the users policy. They will make the budget recommendation. At the same time, they also make budget between all of the different application, server and other things, because they are not just dealing with the server and application, they may doing with network security, etc. Right? So they're looking into how to balancing the budget to optimize use of them. They do also change control, but it's more long-term horizon. At the same time, they got to work with the line of business owner to make sure that their business application, let's say like e-banking infra, they are really take care for those business owner properly, and then into the SLA that we agree. So for this type of people, what they really care is about consistent, predictable application performance, because you cannot manage something you cannot measure. This is why they are looking for more systematic approach. So they're looking for the MTTA and MTTR, right? Response, time and latency, all those thinking, router trip, that kind of thinking. They are concerned for data loss. They are correlation with the other zero, like other, let's say like network infrastructure and security to get the thing done. They will particular interest to solve for a recurring problem. They also concerned about the productivity of his staff, how quickly and efficiency tasks they can get it done, right? So, and then they are also usually will involved in bring in the new application. At the same time, they need to take care for the angry customer. I mean, for the user, we are here mentioned like the business owner, business user, external user, and so on. And then at the same time, they need to assess the SLA, because if then they are doing as a managed services, then they need to think about how to compensate for the, if you say that they are delivered below the SLA, how to compensate to make sure for the cooldown for the angry customers. So here now we're moving into what is the application. Okay, in general, the application we are referring to, like for example, Microsoft Exchange, Dynamic, like Microsoft Dynamic, CRM, SharePoint. We are just using the example on the Microsoft Windows technology because this is most commonly used. It's just an example. It can be applied to other technology like SAP, ERP, this kind of thinking. So then for run the application, usually you need enabling technology. For instance, very typically, if you say it is a web application, you cannot run away. You need to have a web server. For Windows technology we're talking about is the IIS web server. We need a database server to keep all those data. Where is typically in Windows House is we're talking about the SQL Server, right? Microsoft SQL Server database. And then we talk about the user login for the Active Directory we are talking about. This is the common thing the application need the enabling technology. It's always go hands in hand. It is not about just the application that matter. So we giving in to why we say so that the enabling technology also is one of the crucial things, because that we're using the example here, N tier. Why N tier? Because that if the specific application is so crucial, definitely you will need to have a load balancing cluster failover consideration, or that because of the specific high volume loop of the sections, right? You may need multiple of the web server application database server to load balancing. and so on. That's why we call N-tier. In the typically, we have a 3-tier application where web server, application, and database, right? For example, you can see in this standard terminology, let's say we're running WhatsUpgold application. By himself, it is the application. He need enabling technology of the IIS web server, and then they need to have an SQL server, right? You see the traffic, it's two-way, it's two-way. And then for the web client, it's basically is connect to the IIS web server, right? Then this thing, IIS is communicate with the application server. This is in real life for most of the application, or you so-called the enterprise application, is being structured and running in this basic. So another quick thing you can notice that in this kind of scenario, if you want to get a very reliable measure for the application performance, let's say for WhatsUpGo, you cannot just measure for the WhatsUpGo up, down, and then the service run or not. You may need to take in consideration for SQL server, IIS server, the performance, the load we are talking about. Then of course, that for the client connection here, the traffic network, all those things together, we want to monitor everything into one scenario. That is what is in the very layman term, what people want to achieve. Is actually not about a single box. It's always about the multiple different application server that working together. We are using a custom profile to define the technology that we want to monitoring accordingly. More specific to talk about that, application also depend on the server and network, definitely, because the hardware portion we're talking about, right? This part is the hardware. Then we talk about the CPU, memory, disk, right? They have the read-write latency, bad memory, of course it will get problem. Memory rate worse, right? Then we have malware, the security in concern. How many concurrent run program, it will impact on the CPU, the memory, and then for some need to have a very high I/O reading thing, right? It will make this performance worse. Let's say that it's normal SATA or it's a high-speed SSD and so on. Then another component that will be impact on your application will be on the network layer, where we have the network device failure, network traffic bottleneck, and latency, that all together will have the impact on your applications. So application is also depend on the services and processes. Because why? Because the application will call up the service and procedure to perform a specific routine, and then the software program accessible by application, transparent to the user. Despite it is the transparent, but behind the scene, right, is actually have a lot of services and processes running. Like this is we're using the case for the email, right? Send and receive through the exchange. For POP3, right? And then for IMAP services, it's different thinking, right? POP3, then service, and service that retrieve the email. IMAP is through the internet message access protocol service that send email. So you can see that each of the actual application, each of them have their own services and processes, right? Application also depend on the virtual resources. In particular, nowadays we have a lot of the modern deployment is mostly done in the virtual server or the cloud computing, or private cloud or hybrid cloud. In that scenario, they are actually all sitting into one of the virtual resources, right? And then you must remember, despite that he can provision one of the virtual machine or the two virtual server for you, each of them will be still consuming on the virtual CPU, virtual memory, hard disk, traffic, and so on. And then since all is actually physically usually will begin that few boxes, then you are not the only application that is running. They have other different application. So that in typical scenario, in the proper way for measuring for application performance, you may need to monitoring also for those additional for the virtual resources that whether have an impact on you or not, right? Because why? Because they are all shared and pooled, then also result in the application competing for resources. Application depend on the server farm, of course, that or you put into the data center, right? So server farm will provide redundancy and load balancing for the application, ensure application availability and performance. Again, here you like it or not, we have the latency and network. It will provide additional performance concern that you may be in need that for your specific applications. Applications are deployed across multiple servers. Here we give another the Windows technology as an example that's formerly called Microsoft Windows. So IT will often split application roles to run across server because it makes it easier for the people who are doing the same thing across multiple box. Because like for example, we need the people really good at doing for the IIS web server that it will be able to serve the thing faster, and then we may need to have people good at the database who are good in command on the SQL command, perform all the things related to the SQL. At the same time, we will need to have application people that who are good at the specific application. That is why that usually the application are deployed across the multiple server. And for the application that is together, then it will making up of the IT services that is running. For example, we're talking about here we're using the CRM as a services. It can be ERP and so on. So in the back end scene, we actually have a lot of a different application that is running. We will have, let's say here is a Microsoft Dynamics CRM, right? Then we have the web server application, we have a SQL application, we have Active Directory. Because for the CRM, we may use of the email, right? So that we have an Exchange, the mailbox server. Again, we have an IIS Active Directory. So this is together will be making up of the various kinds of services. In this scenario, you cannot just monitoring for a single box. It won't giving you the complete answer for what is going wrong. This is why usually for the people, in particular the application people or owner, that you want to able to have a very complete knowing about what is going wrong with the application. You cannot simply see for a single point of failure. You got to have the holistic to understanding what have the potential impact in your specific application is running, right? And so on. Typically for APM in basic, we have commonly here the application slow, right? Actually slow in a nowadays it is equivalent to down because we are talking about the end user experience. You just imagine that people there who will be click certain thing. You must think about people will not be there forever to waiting for the page to be refreshed. They will have some sort of tolerance for let's say few seconds, but beyond that, it actually is almost considered is already died down, right? In application will crash, right? In particularly for the complex application like just I referring to the slide, that one or two of the components of problem, he will impact the rest, right? Slow performing application and the intermediate performance problem is actually it is one of the IT biggest nightmare. Why? Because most of the IT infrastructure we are setting up only for one reason, to running for the application, to letting the business run, right? If application that you cannot so be predictable on the performance and you do not know in exactly where is the one that got problem, then you will spend a lot of time to be troubleshooting across all the layers from the network, from the server, from the services, from the hardware spec, from the CPU memory, etc., etc., and then up to the application. And then at the same time, of course, we all know that the slow application is very costly, right? You just imagine you're running in e-commerce, just a few say that a few seconds of delay, that people will switch away from the A provider to B website that will provide a smooth ordering process, right? You will can be as simple as that. You're losing that kind of the a customer, or even say you are the trading, the so-called the store exchange trading, that is actually is not tolerant for that kind of the millisecond of delay that cost $1 billion of the trading loss, right? So diagnostics method also survival at hit and miss, time consuming, and they not guarantee success. If you, after the problem is happened, then you start to deploy some sort of the troubleshooting mechanism to try to find what is going on, I was telling you, you are just too slow, and then you are not really proactive enough that in this modern proactive always on infrastructure and services that you must be keep running for make sure your business is keep moving, right? So when the time you just passively then start do the Google search, what's going wrong, analyzing those line of the event log. We are not talking about too long because when the time we talk about the event log, we talk about the million of the log, right? Again, time consuming, right? Or you try to creating and running some scripting troubleshooting, again, it is very time consuming. And then you won't feel it surprised that because of the downtime incur, usually for this kind of complex application scenario, everyone will try to finger pointing. This is someone else's problem. I can tell you my hardware is up, let's say for those in charge for the hardware, right? You will see my CPU, everything is up, no problem. So you got problem, you got pointing up to the different department, maybe it's network, maybe it's application, maybe it's other people problem, is always not their problem. So in this kind of scenario, end up you will be wasting a lot of time to be going through the typical process of finger pointing process. But you must understood, those things is between your, if he is an external business customer, they will not have the patience for that, right? Because why? The time is money for everyone is involved, right? So your SLA actually, no matter how beautiful before you have been agreed, you actually is not able to realize that, right? So with all the conclusion of all those, just a quick summary from also the key people like system administrator, and then the IT director, and then what is the application that we are talking in the scenario, and then what is a typical problem that we are talking about. In basic, then we talk about the one, introduce you on the APM. APM is talking about you need 4 key functions, right, to allow you to running professional systematic proactive APM management. That is inclusive of the discover, monitor, alert, and report, right? It will allow you to discover your application in the way that you want, then create a custom tailor-made application that is really specific to your very specific application monitoring scenario and context. It's not the simple just pull like other people. It will work. It must be something tailor-made to your own actual scenario, what the thing you want to monitor in how long, and so on. And then if any part of the thing that you're monitoring, that the problem, you must be able to alert and then to let you know that something is going wrong, right? Or even that in early warning stage, that before it becomes a problem, that you have some time to solve the problem, rather than before it becomes a real problem coming out. That is the classic down already, right? And then at the same time, you must be able to capture the APM kind of the report. We talk APM is not just a server up and down, because there is no meaningful in the APM scenario. We need something go beyond it to able to capture all those things. all the departments that involved, they cannot be finger pointing anymore. That everyone will sit into the play to solve the problem for everyone in one complete and workable scenario for everyone. So we talk about actions. So it's all about the report must able to help you to deliver all this kind of the insight that everyone can work on. So we talk this 4 functions. So discover, of course, we talk about the APM is begin with discovery. So some APM will automatically discover some of the application instance. For example, if you say you just want to monitor some standard of the shelf application like Exchange, SQL, IIS, right? Yeah, you can be just simple as just add the standard profile into your application without make some additional modification, right? So it can be one way of doing it. Monitor, because that you were using the application profile to monitoring application, because in real life you are not just standard application. Most likely for every application, we are referring to most very high chances you have some very custom made or internal developed, or some of the application is tailor-made to your own application. Especially although you must to be able to create a custom profile really to be matching in the key thing that you really want to monitor, right? So you want to, let's say that definitely you will cover the hardware if you have hardware, or even you say they are running in the VMware other virtualized infrastructure, right? You still want to monitoring that physical box that will provision that, because why? If that box a problem, you work a problem, right? Because you're running all those virtual resources inside the box. So availability of service and processes, all those enabling that related SMMP and WI performance counter and some custom script, all those things you may want to monitor, right? So monitoring application dependency, because this is something, of course, that for application owner, you definitely want to monitoring for depend on enabling technology and other application. You definitely need to, when the time you define your application, you want to put this into your consideration, right? For the create a custom made, also called a WUG APM system, define the monitoring those dependency, right? Client coming to the IIS, and IIS connect to the WhatsUpgold, and then for the WhatsUpgold have connect to the SQL server, and so on. One day you can mapping all those in the very clear the application dependency flow, right? It will making later on you can have much more easier to control, and then you can tracking where it's going wrong. Alert, he will giving you the real-time notification when something go wrong. You can set some threshold alarm based on the proactive, let's say like performance regression up to certain memory. Let's say that is already hit 95% of CPU resource. Also, you want to trigger an alarm to telling you that it's quite a heavy high load. If you won't do something about in a very long, consistent manner, that it will eventually become a problem where that usually will be end up will result into upgrade the CPU or memory or whatever to making for the more proper performing load that is coming, right? Blackout policy and so on that you want to know and to have a proactive alerting on all those matters. Report, of course, the system admin, you need know just currently what is running data. You may need to have a history data to support and optimizing all those. For example, like what being changes and then what being improved. You want to know all those changes to help you to have a better manage your application, right? To provide the performance data in webpage called the dashboard manner, it was summarizing the data on the application. You may drill down to a specific monitor part and component that you are interested to see, right? For example, here it talk about a simple like up and down, but this is not about server up and down. It talk about the application. right? Certain thing that is current state is down, it will tell me for URL, right? But other thing is up, and so on, right? From the above, it will give you a very quick concept of what it is the APM is about. So moving from these sections, we were talking about how the APM we apply in the scenario for the WhatsUpGold APM module and functions. In a quick summary for those who are new yet, right? For the WhatsUpGold is the typical IT monitoring system that is also come with the APM function as the add-on for most of the low-end version, and then will be inclusive into the high-end version. But we just specific talk about this function. We don't talk about other function on the software, because this section is all about APM, right? We're using this to be demonstrated in real-life APM, how it will be able to benefit the system administrator and the IT director to do their good job. Okay, WhatsUpGold is able to providing the application for performance by providing actionable end-to-end data on application, enabling technology, and even IT services, all in a unified dashboard. Because for me, this is only if you can do all those things, it becomes really benefit to the people who are dealing with the complex multi-box, multi-service enterprise applications. Right? So it will allow to deliver performance demand by the user, application, and business operation. Because business owner e-banking, for example, they only interested to know that how my e-banking application is running, right? And so on. Quickly identify root cause of application performance problem to avoid a very long process of the finger pointing each other for the problem, but the system remains slow or down. And then meet the SLA commitment for the enterprise application. There is a typical use case for all this kind of APM software. So we're using back the window technology as a sample for subsequent slide. So like Microsoft, typically application people insert to see like Exchange, SharePoint, Dynamics kind of business. And then for the Microsoft enabling technology, definitely IIS, SQL, Active Directory, Hyper-V if you in the virtual line, right? Or you in Azure if you in the cloud already. And then some of your in-house built application, and then other application and enabling technology. For example, people in using the Oracle, using Cisco and other technology. By the way, the above here we are using Windows as a sample. It will be able to apply in a Linux scenario. It's just here we're using Windows technology. It's just an illustration because most of the people use Windows technology just mentioned about. So let's now come to the address for the 4 key functions of the APM. In the before that we talked about the APM system is all about providing four functions. Right? We see how to mapping this into the WhatsUpGold APM scenario to address this 4 key function to make we have the proper and systematic managing of the APM. Discover, right? APM will begin with discovery. So WhatsUpGold APM, he will automatically discover all the instance on your network, and then that as a system administrator for the WhatsUpGold, then you can test each discover instance and edit all those value to have the value that you want. Right? They say that report, let's say memory 80% is considered. It is a threshold. You may want to define higher or lower. You can change it. Same as well for other things that are part and component. You may refine and changing into the volume threshold and down threshold systematically, right? So you can do those things. So application latency is a classic issue for everyone, because that application server, web server, database server, for really big and complex applications, you never running in single box. And then the user sometimes is not in the enterprise network, they are in the outside, they have the latency, all those thinking, that it will be create a very bad experience. So the key thing here is to how to be create a custom complex application that able you to understanding how your application is running. For example, when the time we create the monitor the application profile, let's say like here, you can see from the screen here, right? We may able to create a very different type of the part that you may need. Let's say that the memory 5 minutes is critical or not, the warning at how many, and then for down consider what. Warning is mean that usually we will set it to, if this thing continue in that kind of scenario for how long, it is something we want to change to warning, because if that continue to do so, he may will be have impact into down, right? So you see that the one part of the difference between this kind of application that we can proactively setting certain parameter as warning. Application component is any data point that you want the WhatsUpGold APM to be monitoring as part of your application. You may be using for like SMMP, WMI, SSH, SQL query, and PowerShell or whatever that able to giving you a response. So you may also using to monitor for server health, services, process, or anything, right? Anything that, for example, the existing WhatsUpGold that you already prepared and running, that you may able to extract out to those existing configuration. You can be custom tailor-make what you want to pull out as part of your APM monitoring parameter. End user response time. The first sign for problem always is slow end user response time, because they are the user, right? They have another technology called the iMicro. Actually, from WhatsUpGold, it is actually able to capture and then to automate, right, to give you the threshold and monitoring for the systematically the history within the browser, create a monitoring script. It will really log in to create a map for you to know how is the end user response time. So you may be using it also as part of thing to be in your monitoring to know about whether there is caused any end user experience problem. Back to the APM. For WhatsUpGold, you definitely interest to know up, down, warning, and maintenance. Okay, up, down, straightforward. The application's up, application down. Warning is that if something continues to do so, it will become down and fail, right? So maintenance is something you plan downtime, that either you are upgrading the RAM or upgrading the application and so on. So you may create some of the part and component as critical, some is not critical, right? So by doing so, to define this too, you can provide increased control over defined application state, right? Critical down, application will down. However, for no critical down, or that he won't able to meet the threshold that he given, he will giving you application warning and still, right? Because that he won't be impact on critical down. However, he will have impact on slowdown, for instance. That's why that by able to allow you to define in such a detail, you may actually have more control later on, that to provide you a report that is much more useful. Critical component is usually a group that increase control over defined application state. You may define a component dependency to define the application state, like IIS down from all those group of IIS server, or it's definitely is classified as down in still. So you don't need to continue to think about other conditions. You don't need to pull anymore, because from this dependency wise, that if the thing is down, it is down, right? Critical component group, you can add all those things into the group, into the application, to be, let's say that if physical memory using how much it considered down or whatever, you can send all those conditions like the mathematical if, else, then, that kind of a condition to give you a flexibility to monitoring certain things in a systematic way, right, by the machine, right? Application dependency again, so that applications depend on enabling technology and other applications, just like before that we have mentioned about the enabling technology, right? For complex application relationship, usually you may need to refine and monitoring all those dependencies also, even that they are considered part of other application. Because if you won't put it into your monitoring as part of your formula, then that anything happen there, you don't know what is going wrong. That is actually have impact on you. So that you may add the other application is a part of your formula. This is what we mean to add other thing into your formula. Then of course that you may need to create the action alert, right? For what you want to have alert. For example, add the rule, right? So let's say for the testing for tier 1 support for 5 minutes, and then for SharePoint service try to restart. If something related to SharePoint down services, you try to restart, and then email tier 2 after 15 minutes, the thing is continued, and so on, right? You can create well-refined escalation process in play. When the time the thing happens, it just will continue according to your policy, and then get all those repeating done. That you won't need your people to wasting time to be then referring to the SOP and so on. You can pre-refine the step is all that happening, and then he was sending out email alarm and tell everyone what is going on. Everyone will know how to continue from picking up the task that they need to do until the system is back to normal. You can also alarm based on the blackout policy, like what time the system someone is planned for do not want to monitoring, then you may need to know, right? The blackout area, like what time. This is the area of time don't have, then this is an active time that you want to measure. Because some of the enterprise, they only interest to measure on the business time, and business day SLA for those no essential time, that basically they don't want to put into monitoring, so they don't want to have those data will impact on their real actual SLA calculations. And then for the report, of course, that we talk about application. This is why that usually we're using the pie chart kind of a scenario to giving you to know the current status. Up is how much, down is how much, and then you can see that actually what is the thing that caused the warning, and then is running for how long, and so on. And then another useful thing you want to see in the history point of view, then you may see that because usually it's 100%, right? So that everything fall below, then you will have a warning stage, uptime, and so on, right? It will withdraw this kind of thing for you, and then for the what is the potential impact, that you can zooming in according to the different time specific you want to go for more detail. And from there, from all the report, then you have this kind of thing, because you have captured it, so that you can able to refine and then to see what is the thing you may need to do to resolve the problem, right? For example, this one we talk about less than threshold warning for whatever, that you know what caused this thing is the problem that is no 100%. Then you can drill it down and then see what is the main cause for that. So SLA monitoring for all the enterprise application monitoring people, even the IT director, for sure that you are interested to able to provide SLA report that is as systematically as possible, because it is important as the baseline to measure everything. WhatsUpgold APM is one of the two, right? I'm using for as an example. You can put IT in chargeback and for count and what doesn't count, right? So not all component failure will impact application performance and avoidability, especially one that you have well defined on your definition of the enterprise application. Then you may result in a less false positive and wasting time in collecting the forensic evidence that is not really count in your SLA calculations. So this is why that in the application we talk about the uptime, right? The down application warning, few SLA compliant and miss SLA compliant kind of thing, right? We may need to see in those warning, because by solving that it will actually help you to improve your application SLA. This is in real life how the typically APM will provision the working functional real-time data for you. That one application he will be have a lot of different stated for you. It is a real-time chart. So this thing will keep ongoing to drawing for you. You can see the red one is actually hard downtime, right? So and then is a warning, right? The warning stage and so on that you may need to, and then the maintenance that is causing in the blue one, right? So without refining those things into this manner, the application owner, you cannot really manage, because you cannot see those things. That is what is going on. Zooming in more detail, you can see more clear about the status on the uptime. Like here, let's say if we have 99.99, you got problem, because the uptime here we refer to is 73 something only, right? And then what caused the downtime here, and what is the part and so on. Okay, this is the zoom out screenshot for that. All right, giving you a very clean cut of what is going on, that what kind of a thing you should able to do when the time you see this kind of chart, that how to remove out those warning, how to taking out the downtime, and then how to minimizing the maintenance, right? All will have impact on your SLA delivery. This is a screenshot for the WhatsUpgold 2019.2 service release version. The actual screenshot that from the system. We just snapshot here to give you easy looking into the current version, right? How to look and feel of it. Same, actually, even the color toning, but it remains the same, right? We have a warning, we have a down, we have maintenance, we have a up, and then we have unknown, right? Unknown is worth to investigate, because we can able to drill down into the APM. Then you can see what is a specific thing that you want. Like this thing here, emulated by SQL 5.7, right? Have a downtime. So that it may be have downtime, right? So it may be worth your time to spend on how to resolve this instead of looking into the minor gain thing, right? Because in the end, the whole objective is to improve the uptime, right? The SLA is about So this section is basically is cover like what we just mentioned is all about. We hope that he's giving you a very clean, quick understanding what is the APM, the concept, what is the key thing he need to be mentioned, and then in real life the application actually provide what kind of data to solve all those the operation concern that you may have. For those then who interested to know more on other feature and so on, please have a close monitoring for our event or calendar. Then we have other like 1 hour kind of section that is purposely to be held to talk something in specific that you can be looked into quick learning as per needed basic, right? We will continue with the frequent asked question. You will have something in mind that you want us to be covered, if a time is allowed us to do so, so that feel free to give up, or after the event, right, the legislation, you feel free to continue to write us, that we were able to answer back to you to to your registered email. Once again, we hope that in this section we help you to deliver what is your expectation, like what you've been want to hear, to know, and so on. Of course, that we are highly encourage you to write to us to let us know what is a subsequent topic that you are found interested. We are in the pooling to know what is the subsequently, what kind of thing that we should be planned as a separate section for you in return. At the time frame, at the moment now, then I'm thanking for everyone, so that have a good day. Bye.